The fatal mistake that sealed Arsenal's demise against PSG 2-1 Arsenal, a painful exit that suggests regression. Despite glimpses of progress by Miguel Delaney at the Parc des Princes, Thursday, 8 May 2025, Arsenal's 2024-25 season came to a sobering conclusion on a cool Parisian night, ending not with glory but a familiar sense of what could have been. The Gunners' dreams of reaching the UEFA Champions League final evaporated under the lights of the Parc des Princes, undone by an all-too-familiar cocktail of shortcomings, misfortune, and elite opposition. Paris Saint-Germain, brilliant and battle-hardened under Luis Enrique, secured a 2-1 win on the night and a 3-1 victory on aggregate. The result brought a brutally fitting end to a campaign defined by flashes of brilliance undone by structural flaws. While Arsenal showed ambition and intent, the gaps in their squad and strategy ultimately proved too costly to mask. The inevitable collapse Arsenal began the evening with purpose. The midfield pressed high, the ball zipped around confidently, and PSG looked visibly uncomfortable. It was the kind of start that offered a glimmer of hope. Declan Rice surged forward with power, Martin Odegaard probed between the lines, and Bukayo Saka stretched the pitch wide, but each surge fell short. Why? Because no one was there to finish. The Gunners' long-standing failure to address their striker problem came back to haunt them at the worst possible moment. Crosses flew across the 6-yard box with no one attacking them. Saka, in one moment, of visible frustration, looked up to see an empty penalty area and threw his arms up in despair. The effort was there, the execution was not. Meanwhile, Gianluigi Donnarumma stood tall once again. The towering Italian keeper made crucial saves early on, particularly from Odegaard and Martinelli, and each stop seemed to further swing momentum toward the hosts. While Arsenal were threatening, Donnarumma was decisive. The turning point, a self-inflicted wound. The game's emotional axis shifted around the 26th minute. PSG hadn't yet found rhythm, but Arsenal gifted them a foothold. David Raya, who had been instructed to go long much of the night, made the odd decision to attempt a risky pass into midfield. Declan Rice, under immediate pressure, was forced to foul Kvicha Kvaratskhelia. From the resulting free kick, Arsenal were punished in the harshest way. A headed clearance fell to Fabian Ruiz on the edge of the box. In a moment of composure and brilliance, Ruiz chested the ball down with poise and struck a vicious left-footed volley. The ball took a faint deflection off William Saliba's chest and flew past Raya into the corner. It was Ruiz's first Champions League goal in 46 appearances, but one that will live long in the memory. It was a stunning strike, a blend of technique, timing, and raw power, and emblematic of the thin margins at the top level. Arsenal had matched PSG in most departments, but lacked the cutting edge in both boxes. A glimmer, then darkness. The second half began with Arsenal looking less assertive. Fatigue, both physical and emotional, began to tell. Lewis-Skelly, the 18-year-old midfielder who had been so fearless earlier in the campaign, endured a torrid night, and Jakub Kiwior became a clear target for PSG's quick interchanges down the flank. When PSG were awarded a penalty following a VAR-reviewed handball by Lewis-Skelly, it felt like the tie was set to slip away entirely. Vitinha stepped up, but David Raya partially redeemed himself with a sharp save low to his left. Hope flickered, but just minutes later that hope was extinguished. PSG's press forced a turnover in Arsenal's half, and Achraf Hakimi, surging forward with precision, curled a sensational finish past Raya. 2-0 on the night, 3-0 on aggregate. Saka did pull one back almost immediately, converting a Trossard cross with clinical ease, but it was too little too late. The Gunners had a brief chance to make it interesting when Riccardo Calafiori whipped in a cross that evaded the PSG defense, but Saka couldn't connect. That was Arsenal's story across both legs. Nearly, almost, not quite. Regression, or simply reality? This loss felt like more than just a semi-final defeat. For a club that has spent the last 3 years under Mikel Arteta redefining itself, it was a painful reminder that rebuilding is rarely linear. In October, Arsenal had beaten this same PSG side, but between then and now, the trajectories had diverged. PSG reinforced with Kvaratskhelia and integrated Dembele. Arsenal lost Gabriel and Havertz to injury and failed to adequately replace them. It was evident in Paris. Arsenal were trying to stretch limited resources, leaning on the same core players for weeks. Fatigue, both mental and physical, was written. On every face, Arteta now faces real scrutiny. Not about his job, which remains secure, but about his methods in high-stakes matches. His insistence on structure and pressing over attacking spontaneity worked for stretches, but when it mattered most, Arsenal looked hesitant, unsure. Still, there is a foundation. Despite the disappointment, there is perspective to be had. Arsenal are back at the top table of European football. They reached a semi-final and pushed one of the continent's most stacked sides to the edge. That matters. The core of this team is young, ambitious, and battle-tested. The flaws are obvious, but also fixable. A top-class striker is a must. More depth in central defense and midfield would help. As for PSG, they look like the team Qatar envisioned back in 2011. Luis Enrique has forged a serious outfit, one capable of winning not just highlights, but the hard minutes. João Neves was phenomenal, Donnarumma imperious, and Hakimi decisive. Even without starting Dembele, they had enough. For Arsenal, the question now is whether this pain becomes a lesson or a scar. The summer window will be critical. The club must act decisively. Arteta has brought them this far. To go further, he'll need backing, bold decisions, and perhaps a little luck. The final whistle in Paris wasn't just the end of a match. It was the end of a chapter. What comes next will define whether Arsenal truly return to Europe's elite or remain the team that almost did. Thank you for watching Football Social Change, your source for trusted news and insights. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay informed.